Okay, hi everyone. So today we're going to be taking a look at the second part of setting up the files for the lab using files that were downloaded from GitHub. So what we're going to do is we are going to start a new project like this. It's going to be a JavaFX project. So a JavaFX project, and we're using the JDK version 14. This is going to be lab H part B, like that. And so for this version of the lab, or this part of the lab, we're going to be using the Arduino. We're going to be connecting to the Arduino. Okay. So let's do this. We're going to go and File, Project Structure. We're going to bring in jSerialComm, and we're going to bring in, so there we go, Maven com.phasecast. Let's see, jSerialComm, like that. Hit the magnifying glass, do a search. Should come up in a few seconds. We're going to use version 2.6.2, like that. We're going to link it into this, and we're going to add in, we're going to bring in the downloads. We're going to bring in documents. We're going to bring in the JavaFX SDK. I'm going to bring in version 15, but version 11 should also work. So version 15, like that. Open. And link it in. And okay. Next up, we're going to go into the. Oops, I got to go into main here. Hold on. Source, sample, main, edit configurations. I'm going to put it in VM options. Now, my VM options show up right here. For some of you, there's an option sort of selection place over here in your, you have to look for it sometimes. Okay, anyways, I've copied it from a previous project, but otherwise you have to go to the IntelliJ website that talks about how to set up JavaFX, either version 11 or version 14 or 15. And you set up your VM options based on that particular thing, and you have to make sure that version, and you have to make sure that you choose the right location in your computer. Me, I've got it at this location here. Okay, you want to make sure that it's in a standard sort of place. This is pretty standard right here. Okay, next up. So we've got that set up. I'm going to double click on main right there. There's my main. I'm going to have to bring in some files. So we're going to go and take a look at the files. We have here in source. This is what I downloaded as the zip file from GitHub. We're going to go to serial port Java. So I'm going to open this up in a text editor. In this case, I'm using BBEdit, but you could use any text editor that works on your computer. You could even use IntelliJ if you wanted to. So I'm just going to open that up like so. And I'm going to copy all the lines here just below where it says package, because I'm going to just use the default package setting that's already in my file. Okay, right there. Oops. No, in this case, I'm not wiping that out. I'm going to go new Java class. And what was it called? It was called serial port service. Oops. Let's try that again. New class serial port service. You got to get the capitals right. And let's paste that in like so. All right. So that's in. I'll save action right there. Now I'm going to go into part B. I got my main file right here. I'm going to open this up in BBEdit. Copied all those lines. I'm going to go into main right here. I'm going to blast away everything except for the package, because it's currently setting up everything to be under a package sample. That's the file structure in the project. So I'm going to go in here, paste that. Now, notice this right here. This is going to have to get changed. So, right? Now, we don't know what that is, but we do actually. This is the location of our board in terms of the serial port connections on your computer. So right now I'm going to open up the Arduino IDE. I'm going to say I want a new project or a new file. It just gives me a default one. We can see that the address here is /dev/cu.slab_usb_to_art. Okay, so I got to change that up here. Here we go. /dev/cu.slab_usb_to_art. Let's just make sure that I spelled that right. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. So we got that right there. All right. So let's go and build that just to make sure. And then I'm going to go and set up the Arduino program. That appears to be building okay. Looking down here. Yep. Everything seems to be all right. No, it's not. Whoops. What did I... this right here. I got to change this. This is sample, right? If your packages are named differently, you have to change that up. So in this case, it's sample right there. Let's change that up. Recompile. Let's see what happens. It should work this time. Cross my fingers, right? Like that. Cross my fingers. And almost. Done. Okay, so that compiled. Good. Okay, so we're going to go back into the download from GitHub, and we have to go back up to Arduino right there. There it is. I'm going to open this up in BBEdit, and this right here is the file that we're going to be putting in our Arduino IDE. We're going to be running serial port at 9600 baud. We're going to be using the OLED. You can see the link in for the library right there. And we've covered how to do that in a previous lab. We're going to be setting up the serial port to start up. We're going to be reading from the serial port. And then from here, this is going to convert the data that comes in, the received data that's coming in from the serial port into basically a string. Okay, they'll be output by sprintf. And then it'll be output into a variable called buff. Buff will then be put into displayPrint buff. And what this does is this outputs it out to the OLED. Okay, this is going to go out to the OLED. Come on, OLED like that. Oops, and I think I blasted away curly brace. Okay, there we go. So we're going to copy that. We're going to put this into my Arduino IDE like this. I'm going to save as. Like that. I'm going to say lab H Arduino stuff. Excellent. Now I'm going to compile it, and I'm going to stick it, this program, on the board. Okay, so let's see if we can make that happen. So let's make sure that it compiles, and then after that, I'm going to shove that code onto the board using the USB cable right here. It's getting there. When I'm doing recordings, it runs slower than usual. Okay, but we're going to get there. So it's compiling. Eventually it'll finish compiling. Maybe I'll buy a faster computer next time. All right, we're almost there. Okay, now I'm going to download, and you should see little lights flash as it's downloading in. It's uploading from the computer into the board. That's done. All right, so that is all right. I put my board down, and let's see if we can get the Java program to send stuff to it. Now, it's important to point out that in this version of the code, in the Part B version of the code, there are things that should be done, okay? But we'll talk about that in a second. So I'm going to run it. Let's see if it runs. And when it connects, you might actually see some lights show up on the LEDs on here. Okay, so I got a slider. So there's a slider right here that that shows up. This is my Java little program right here. It's got a slider on it. We're going to use this inside of the program to send things into the board. Okay, so what should happen is that as you move the slider back and forth, you should see things display on the board, on the OLED right here of the board. But right now it doesn't. Now why is that? Well, it's because we have to set up a listener to the slider. We have to set up a piece of code that will listen to the movement of the slider and then send that value over a data stream, okay, into the serial port and then into that board. So this is an objective of your work that you have to do in this lab. Now, other things that you might want to consider is that where it says pane.set center slider, you could do things like, if you had a label, you could say put the label in the center, or you could, for instance, over here do something like pane.set bottom. Okay, and this is placement of components inside of that little window that we had. You can place it on the top, on the bottom, on the left, on the right, etc. You should play around with that and see what you can do in here. Okay, so these are things that you need to consider. Okay, you can change the value of the slider minimum value and the maximum value. So you could go 0 to 50, for instance. Okay, you could go from 100 to 200 as well. Those are values that you can set right here. You can also change the size of the scene in the box that's on the board or in the window. Okay, so these are things to consider with respect to your serial port program. But really, the thing that you got to work on when you first get into this right here is what are you going to do to set up the listener for the slider so that it outputs into the output stream to go down into the USB.